Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call a regular meeting of council to order Monday, December 7th, 2020. Approval of the agenda, please. Councilor Majinski.
Got the agenda for the regular council meeting of Monday, December 7th, 2020, be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councilor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of minutes, November 16th, 2020, regular meeting of council minutes. Recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury.
That the minutes of Monday, November 16th, 2020, regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councilor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes, council. Councilor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up, actually contacted our CEO today to have her put the staff report back on our calendar. So it's on everybody's wicket. Weren't able to discuss it the last meeting, so I'd like to discuss it this time.
Okay, so it would be a motion to reconsider, which I will make to reconsider the Baylor report. Seconder. Councilor Lehman. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councilor Kirkowka.
Yeah, so first of all, I know Mr. Beal isn't here, but our CEO had already discussed that he would be in the meeting tonight, so I know there's some questions that may not get answered, or she'll have to bring us back some of the information. But first of all, when we asked staff for a report like this was done by a motion. Notice the motion first, and then brought to regular meeting, and we didn't even discuss. To me, staff worked on the reports that we didn't discuss that we asked for. So it's not always to me about finding the issues with the report or not agreeing with it, but at least giving the appreciation that they worked on the report that we requested, came back fairly quick to us, put it in front of us, and I think there were some questions in regards to how the banner wasn't CSA approved and stuff like that, which is answered the report, but there is some other questions I have in regards to that. And to me, when we order a baler, and it writes right in there from Mr. Beal that it's the standards of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the OSA requirement. I'd be curious to find out how that doesn't CSA approve it. If that's what made the criteria for us to order the baler through this company, why would we make sure the background knowledge was that CSA approved coming to the United States? If that's what would have been needed for our requirements.
You're asking me that question?
No, it's just the staff.
Okay. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand, through council. So as I had talked to Mr. Beal about this, and had we known at the time when the baler was purchased that the ANSI and the ULC, which is a Canadian standard, if we would have known at the time when we purchased the baler, we could have gone back and asked the company, but being that the baler was purchased years ago, we had to have it certified to CSA now.
Councilor Kirkowka.
So in there, it's on the very front page, back to staff. They is now CSA certified. The cost went above the original estimate of $7,000. What's the actual cost to have it CSA approved?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. I'm not exactly sure of the cost. I knew probably a little bit ago, but I'm not comfortable giving an answer until I can verify that amount.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Any other questions, Council? Councilor Hott?
Does the financial budgetary implication cover what the cost of it was? Where it says to get a CSA group to come to Tumbler Ridge and inspect and certify the baler was approximately $10,000, and the parts were required were approximately $1,500. Is that? Do you think that that's the cost of what it was, or is the $7,000 above that as well? That's $11,500.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. I am not exactly sure of, but I do know it was still within the contingency of the budget this year, so we weren't over budget on the total project. But honestly, I am not sure of the exact numbers for each component.
Any other discussion? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Recommendation, please. Councilor Kirkowka.
So items that December 7th, 2020 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder? Counselor Lehman? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything council would like to lift from the consent agenda? Counselor Majinski?
Yeah, please put 7.4 on the table, please.
7.4 for discussion. Seconder? Counselor Kukalka? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Counselor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we should absolutely send out a letter of support for this. It's greatly needed in our region, so bring that up for success passing along and bring us up.
Absolutely. I agree. I had the pleasure of participating in a presentation by this group, and it was quite fascinating, to be honest with you. They were talking about their capabilities of air rescue, not having to land the helicopter, which significantly increases their capacity. But then they were also talking about how their level of treatment eventually saves the medical system millions and millions of dollars in recovery costs, because they're able to get to them so much quicker and are able to do first response medical right in the helicopter. So it's very exciting that this group is moving north, and I think it's definitely a good fit for Tumbler Ridge area and our geopark area. I would definitely be in support of sending a letter of support, so I'll make that motion to send a letter of support to the Technical Evaluation Advanced Aero Medical Team. Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Discussion, Councillor Howe.
Yeah, so what are we going to say in the letter? Are we going to say, can we support you coming to Fort St. John? Is that the extent of what the letter is going to be?
Yeah, that their service is needed in our area, and we're in full support of them offering that service to our area. Councillor.
And that being said, could we take it a step further and say that we're willing to give them a pad at our airport for emergency use whenever needed? I mean, we rent out our place out there to another helicopter company for, I think it's $31 a month is what the lease is on it. So for a team like this to know that they have a spot where they can land and they can have stuff stored there, I don't know, additional fuel or whatever, but just to show we're putting a bit of skin in the game right off the get-go, saying we've got a spot for you, you can land here for free, you know, leave a helicopter here if it suits your needs for avalanche season or whatever it is. Like, can we add that to the letter as well? Is this the appropriate time to do that, do you think?
Yeah, you can certainly make a motion in that regard to bring that level of support. During that presentation I attended, it was in question whether or not they were going to go to Fort St. John, and I had mentioned that we have ample space in Tumbler Ridge for an opportunity for them like that. But Fort St. John is definitely a better situational base for them. It decreases the response time to our area by an hour compared to the other service. So yeah, whatever your flavor is there, Council.
Yeah, so this first comes out on a consent agenda. It's the first time we've seen it, first time we've had an opportunity to discuss it or talk about it. And I'd like that's the problem with when we pick something off the consent agenda and we just immediately make a decision on it. We kind of rush to judgment, or it doesn't always come out exactly. This is just trying to get some discussion going on with council to say, would you guys favor that? Like, is that something that you think adds value to our letter rather than just a letter of support?
Councillor Norbury.
So, to answer Councillor Howe, I guess my thought would be is that something that they need? Maybe we can reach out to them again and say, hey, is it something you need? Is it something you're looking for? Because it looks like they're looking for support for Fort St. John, and there's nothing, and like they would operate from their Fort St. John base, and I assume that's because that's where the medical center would be taking to. I mean, that's an option, but I mean, at this point in time, like sending a letter of support for the fundraising efforts is, I don't think it's a huge issue, but in with, should we offer them space at our airport? And for myself, I think we need to know what the capacity is out there before we make any offers. Like, I assume it's fine, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and my thoughts are the letter of support is really just a first step, and once they do get established in their new base, we could certainly open that discussion up again if they're seeing a high volume of rescues in our area. I'm assuming they're going to reach out to us to see if there's a possibility for space at our airport as well. But I believe the letter of support is really just to show the possible funders that there is support in the region for a service like this. Any other discussion? Call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any other items from the consent agenda? Councillor Baginski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I just want to bring up some of the, it's going to be actually 7.3, 7.5. I did come in and talk to Ms. Thompson last week about all of the variances and the bylaws for the Peace River Regional District. And I had a question on why we get to see them all and if it's necessary to be actually in our consent agenda when it doesn't directly affect our district area. So it just seems like there's going to be a lot of these coming through, especially when we do have a lot of bylaw changes within the Peace region. So I don't really see fit for them to be in these consent agendas. So.
Yeah, we haven't seen them in the past. However, being on our agendas and being open to and transparent to our public and residents, I think it also gives them the opportunity, if they don't track it down through their regional district, to see it for themselves in our agendas. You're right, a lot of it doesn't pertain to our direct area within our geopark, but we are still part of the regional district, and this is really free for anybody to add input. They're looking for stakeholder engagement in these regards. Typically in the past, Tumbler Ridge doesn't give a lot of input, but it's still an opportunity, I believe. Councillor Howell?
So do we have an opportunity to vote on something like that if we want these types of things in our agenda or not, or is this just you're getting it in the agenda like you're a little bit?
Not at all. I mean, if you don't want it in the agenda, by all means. It was an initiative that Ms. Thompson brought forward because it was coming to her desk, and she thought it was pertinent to add it to our agenda. If we don't feel that it is pertinent, that's council's wishes. Councillor Kirkauka.
Yeah, and I actually appreciate it being in our agenda. So I mean, if we have a staff that got these and attached them, I think they should be in our consent agenda, because it's not an opportunity for us if we have a concern. I mean, we want to be part of the PRRD. We've asked to be a full voting partner in the PRRD, and this is our option to be involved. Yes, it doesn't have anything to do within our local area or our geopark area, but one of these could be, and if to me, if you start giving direction now when those come by, just slough them off, then to me, you're always constantly going on to the PRRD website, whether it's our residents or us. And eventually, as we do work on getting residential rural lots, we could end up with some rural lots eventually out of our own taxation, and that becomes the PRRD, right? So we could have people that local our area in Tumbler Ridge, but actually are part of the PRRD tax base. So I think they should be, at least consented.
Councillor Howell?
And again, my concern comes in is in the size of the agenda packages that we see and the amount of information that is contained in it. And if it's on the agenda, you should take the opportunity to at least read what's in there in case some other councillor wants to have some discussion on it. And you've got to be abreast of what's in there for information. Just my take on it is we have a lot of pertinent information and problems and stuff we need to deal with in Tumbler Ridge. And a lot of times these meetings run over a 3-hour time limit as it is. And to add more stuff like this into it, what we say here, is that going to change a variance permit that happens out in the PRRD? Something that we say that, we don't really like that guy's putting his fence 2 meters closer to the road. Like, who gives it?
Thank you for holding back.
Good catch, right?
Very good.
Good thing to pass. That's my take on it. I mean, if this, try it this time, but if it starts to be monotonous and there's just tons and tons of information, I mean, I think at that time, myself, I'd be putting a motion forward not to see that information anymore, so.
I don't mind it in the consent agenda. Realistically, it's the option to discuss it or not. Any other discussion? Councillor Norbert?
I'll just weigh in that. I don't see a big deal. I mean, we can sort of look at it. We can see that it's not in Tumbler Ridge. We can scan it. If it's important to us, we can weigh in. If not, we can just sort of, okay, well, just move on, right? I don't think I spent more time than needed on these items. Huge time.
Yeah. Well, and realistically, we are part of the regional district, so, you know, this is information that we should be sharing with our residents as well. Anything else on the consent agenda to bring up for discussion, council? Okay, moving on to bylaws, 8.1, District of Tumbler Ridge. Sorry, Councillor Krokowka.
So I'm not sure, it was Councillor Kirby sent an email, and I'm not sure if she's aware that it's actually on here at 7.8. I just figured that would come up for discussion so we could show some support in regards to this. I mean, I think I agree with this, so I'd like to move it for discussion.
7.8, okay. Seconder. Councillor Majinski, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Councillor Kirby.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Yeah, I sent that email out after I read it in the paper, or from Mayor Ackerman, and I agree with it for sure. In this here, it doesn't state that they're looking for a letter of support coming from this council. I took it just as a good informative letter. I think the way they held the meetings virtually was really well done, because if you are there in person, a lot of times you're going to those minister meetings and you're missing out on the resolutions. Especially if your community has a resolution on the floor, you're unable to speak to it. So I don't know if council is wanting to send a letter in the same fashion as Mayor Ackerman and Port St. John did, but I would be in support of that if that's a motion that we'd like to put forward. Or I'll put it forward that we send a letter also regarding.
In support of this schedule change. Okay, seconder, Councillor Krokowka. Any other discussion? Councillor Krokowka.
Yeah, I'm just going to say good catch by Councillor Kirby. I mean, obviously Fort St. John initiated, but you know, the email came through and I read through it. I think, you know, and it's true. I've only been to a few of the EVCMs, but it's the FCMs and stuff that happens too with some of the meetings, and you miss them and stuff. So I think it's a smart move if the EVCMs eventually get in person again, once COVID's subsided a bit, I guess. Yeah, I totally support it.
Okay. I agree. I am in support of this 100%. Any other comments? Call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any other on the consent agenda? Councillor Krokowka.
I'm going to bring forward 7.2 for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Krokowka.
So, previous to chairing meetings when you were unavailable, after quite the, I won't say the backlash, but some comments come back stating when it's residents or businesses from our own community are raiding our council, and we don't bring it forward to at least talk about it, it's almost a slap in their face. I heard that from a few residents that we didn't bring forward, and don't get me wrong, I don't think there was a whole bunch we could discuss on it. I don't know if there's anything we could have done on some of the ones that were there, but it's been mentioned that when these people do write, they're from our own community, they're businesses in our community or residents, and we don't bring it forward, it's almost like a waste to write to council. So I think it's only fair that we bring it forward. I mean, to me, I appreciate Black and Gold reaching out to us, but it's actually some of the information I don't know if they all realize that, you know, we may put some skin in the game, but we may not. I mean, this is all grant. I mean, our CAO spoke at the last meeting when we approved to go forward with the grant. That once, if it's approved and they go and sharpen their pencils and actually go through it, there might not be any tax dollars that go into a standalone building that is done by the grant. So I think that should be said and make sure that's out there, that people realize it. And that's all I wanted to say about it.
Councillor Norbert.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. You know, not to repeat what Councillor Krokowka said, and I think he was very apt and true and all of that. We are down a course on this grant opportunity, whereas we cannot, you know, suddenly change courses. You know, we have applied for a grant. The terms are outlined, and we deviate from those terms of that grant, can't do that, right? That's fraud. So, at this point in time, we have a plan for this grant. We need to continue down the path, and if something changes, well, then everything changes, right? So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howe?
Another thing to mention there too is the location of that would not work well for a daycare either, because we were told we had to have outdoor play space, and there was a whole bunch of contingencies that needed to be in a purpose-built building. We looked at other buildings within the district of Tumbler Ridge to make this work, and one of the big things that the daycare also said is that they wanted to be connected to the community center so they could use the indoor spaces, they could use the pool, they could use the playground on the structures that were within the building as well. And I don't think a grant is going to allow you to buy a building. I don't know for sure, but I don't think that grant would be open for this is to build new stuff, that's the way I understood it. So although she may have a nice thought there, it just wouldn't work for the type of grant that we're applying for in this situation, I understand.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to bylaws. 8.1 District of Tumbler Ridge Emergency Program Bylaw 699-2020. Report dated December 7th, 2020 from the Director of Protective Services requesting first 3 readings of District of Tumbler Ridge Emergency Program Bylaw 699-2020. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the District of Tumbler Ridge Emergency Program Bylaw number 699-2020 be read for the first time.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Recommendation 2, please. Councillor Howe.
The District of Tumbler Ridge Emergency Program Bylaw 699-2020 be read for the second time.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Recommendation 3, Councillor Lehman.
That the District of Tumbler Ridge Emergency Program Bylaw 699-2020 be read for the third time.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. New business, 9.1. Sale of district-owned tax sale properties in Tumbler Ridge. Report dated December 7th, 2020 from the Director of Economic Development and Tourism requesting approval of properties acquired by the district through tax sale. Recommendation, please. Councillor Hall.
Can I just ask a question of staff first before we read the recommendation?
Yep.
My question is that can staff sell these properties below appraised market value legally?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't believe that we can. Give me 1 second. So, sorry, so we're pretty sure not. We could verify that, but I believe that we can't sell properties below market value.
Okay. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
The council approve administration to appraise, list, and market the following tax sale properties which are now owned by the District of Tumbler Ridge. 252 Rockport Place, roll number 5003170. Sorry,
No.
52 Supernaut Place, roll number 509110. 48 Supernaut Place, roll number 509115. And that council authorize administration to sell these properties should offers that meet or exceed appraised values be made.
Seconder. Councillor Kirkcalka. Discussion. Councillor Howe.
So is there any way that we can auction these properties off just to get rid of them and get them off of our plate?
Ms. Thompson.
1 moment, please. Thank you for your patience. So as a last resort, if they don't sell underneath our disposal of assets policy, we may be able to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Follow up, Councillor Howell?
Yeah, so how long will we hang on to them before we could initiate that? We have a lot of properties in the District of Tumbler Ridge that we've had for a long, long time, and we can't sell them for their market value because nobody wants to pay the market value, so therefore that isn't the market value. What can we do to get rid of some of these properties so that we're not sitting on them and we can get things moving?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. Can we review our policies and bring it back to council with a report on what our options would be going forward?
That sounds doable. Thank you. Councillor Kukalka?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was kind of doing, and no disrespect to staff. I mean, I think some of the questions, I mean, are out there, and it's great to get the information before we vote. I'd like to make a motion that we defer this until we have the information forward from staff.
Seconder? Councillor Lehman? Discussion on the defer. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Before we defer, is it not the first option to first list them for sale before we would go any further?
That would be reasonable, yeah.
So my question is, wouldn't we go with the recommendation on the floor and then have a report for later on options?
It's a possibility. Councillor Kukalka?
So the reason I made that, and the reason I wanted to make it after the first question was asked, is because there was some uncertainty. Whether we have to be at appraised value or we can do under appraised value. I think it's only fair to staff to make sure that they have that right answer before, to me, we put it on the floor and hold them. The gate may be able to, and may can't. I mean, is this gonna really hold us up? That's my only concern, is we vote on it and they have to come back 2 weeks or a month from now and say, we could have done this and we could have offloaded this property before.
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, and I think, I mean, maybe we could get clarification, but appraisal value and market value are two different things, right? Like we have when we understand the term that is used is market value, not appraisal value, so that could be, my house, a house, with $150,000 appraised, but it's actually selling for $135 market value, and I believe that's what we'd be selling at, not the appraisal value. And then what Councillor Howell is sort of getting to, that if it doesn't sell that way, then we just get rid of them through an auction. At this time, the sooner we get these listed, the sooner that we can move them, so to speak, is what we're sort of looking for, right? So I think we have what we need here for this, and then staff's coming back to us saying this isn't selling. We're gonna throw it on an auction. I think that's what we should do.
Okay. Councillor Howell?
Yeah, my thing is I just don't want it to get lost in the translation, of what the intention is here tonight. Yeah, we're gonna list them, we'll put them up for sale, and then we forget about it, and then they end up with a lot of the other properties we have that we're sitting on that we can't sell, we can't do anything with. And as somebody who's bought property in Tumbler Ridge, there's an appraised value. They cannot sell it to you for less than that amount unless you have something to offer the District of Tumbler Ridge that they can bring back to council. So it was done in Dawson Creek years ago. Blair Leckstrom put it in place somehow for selling selling municipal lots in Dawson Creek for below appraised value. They had some way that they did it there, and it kickstarted their economy in Dawson Creek. And so I don't know how they did it in Dawson Creek, but there was done some certain way to get all their business lots sold, especially on that street out towards through the traffic circle out towards the co-op and the train track area. That stuff was sold all below value. I don't know how they did it, but I did have discussions with Blair Leckstrom around doing it, and I just thought when I seen these come up again in those couple of areas, I could see them sitting there. I mean, Steep Rock has lots sitting in Steep Rock that have been sitting for a long time, as the way I understand it. There's a whole pile up for sale in Steep Rock right now as well. So now we've just added our property into the mix as well. So are we going to get our market value, or is that guy going to sell off his lots first, right? So.
Any other comments? Councillor Majinski?
Do you think we should maybe put the policy review on our next meeting agenda so that we can review it and see maybe there is in there a 30-day timeline or 60-day or whatever, and then we can see if they can actually go out to auction or if there's another terminology that they use to sell at below market or appraised value or whatever they want to call it. Do you think that's something we should look at as putting a motion on the floor to add that, or can that just be?
Yeah, I think we need to really decide on whether or not we defer it here first, and then go from there. My thoughts are, I think we need to list these, and if they don't sell, then we look at other options. Yeah. So, call the question on the deferral motion. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated? Any other comments on the motion as 9.1 shows? Councillor Howe?
Do we have any values of what we lost in taxes on those 3 properties for the 3 years?
Ms. Thompson?
I don't have that number. I could find out information on it, but I don't have that number on me.
Or
Go ahead.
do they have buildings on them right now, or are they spare lots?
Ms. Thompson?
I will have Mr. Powell answer that if he's aware of them.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Council. I believe that they're empty lots, but I'll need to verify that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howe?
So if we go forward with the motion to do this, we have to then get them appraised, right? Spend staff time to do that, and then list them for whatever the appraised value is. Although we've only lost up on the tax sale, these things were for sale for $1,200 and $1,400, $1,500, and nobody bought them at that price for the deferral on the taxes. So we couldn't sell them at that price, but we think we're gonna go spend $1,500 to get them appraised and then list them for $10,000, like the lots are in Steep Rock. That's why I'm saying, like, it doesn't quite make sense to me. We're just throwing money away to try to do something with these lots. If they're empty lots, what are you gonna do?
Okay, any other comments? Okay, call the question on the recommendation. All in favor? Can you throw your hand up again there, please? In favor, thank you. All opposed? Carried, thank you. 9.2, Pandemic Infectious Illness Response Policy TR 52. Report dated December 7th, 2020 from the Director of Protective Services requesting council approval of District of Tumbler Ridge Pandemic Infectious Illness Response Policy TR 52. Recommendation, please. Councilor Majinski.
The council adopt the pandemic infectious illness response policy TR-52 as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Kalka. Discussion. Councilor Majinski.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this policy forward, as well as the emergency program bylaw. I want to say thank you to Mr. Curry and all the work put into these. Are quite extensive. One was drafted right from the ground, so it's a lot of work and much needed, and we'll do on some aspects of it.
Councilor Kalka.
Yeah, I guess this question is, I mean, maybe like a worship of staff. So I understand the response calls and everything else. We're following orders through the government and the provincial health doctrine. Is it being strictly enforced within our community? And are we having any issues there? So we have an order right now that mask wearing must be, and all that. Is it being strictly followed within our community? And if not, is there something we need to do? It's in a policy that we are looking to approve. There's actually a doctor's order right now. And I'm serious. There is concerns that maybe it's not being followed. Now maybe it needs to be moved into code. Not sure, but I'd like to have some information on it.
Within our entire community, or are you talking district staff?
Staffing as well. It's in here as well as for staff too.
Yeah. Ms. Thompson, did you want to respond?
Thank you, Councilor Kapoka. I will have Mr. Curry, Chief Curry, respond to what the standard is with the policy and why we created it. In regard to staff, that would be a discussion we would need to have later.
Your Worship, Council, good evening. So this policy is designed for staff only. This doesn't impose anything to the residents of Tumbler Ridge. This is for our employees to follow ourselves. In terms of Councilor Kapoka's question about is it being followed in the community, to the best of my knowledge, yes. Bylaw officers are permitted under ministerial order to do nothing more than educate and observe. We don't have the authority to detain. We can't issue tickets in the province. We're very, very limited in our scope. So we have received a few different complaints from individuals in the community concerned about large gatherings on weekends or after certain times of the week. And we've taken those as a record of complaint, and then we have submitted those to the RCMP, where they can take it further and deal with it accordingly. So we're kind of being the eyes on the ground in that perspective. This policy actually came out of a workplace inspection that we had through WorkSafe. Early in the pandemic, they wanted to know what we were doing, and we had a lot of good things, very reactive, and we were doing all the right things. But nothing is worth its weight unless it's written in paper. So this was our way to largely be reactive to the WorkSafe inspection and say, okay, we need to get this on paper so now we can actually hold ourselves as district employees accountable.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments? Okay, call the question on the recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.3, Councillor Norbury.
I need to excuse myself from this item because I work at the library and can't hear you.
Thank you. Nine point three, Tumbler Ridge Public Library Board appointments. Report dated December 7th, 2020 from the Director of Corporate Services requesting council approval of the annual library board appointments. Recommendation, please. Councillor Howe.
The council receives the report from the Director of Corporate Services regarding library board appointments. That council appoints District Representative Curtis Vinzinski to the Tumbler Ridge Library Board for 2021. That the following residents are appointed to the Tumbler Ridge Public Library Board for 2021. Trent Ernst, Amber Bell, Lisa Allen, David Grant.
Seconder. Councillor Kurkalka, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'd like to move that council approves the appointment of residents Caitlin Garden and Kathy Burke to the Tumbler Ridge Library Board pending criminal record check clearance. Seconder. Councillor Majinski, discussion. Councillor Howe.
So we've discussed this at length, and I think that actually I'm gonna hold my comments on this. I don't think we can discuss this actually.
Okay, Councillor Kurkalka.
Yeah, I think through staff, we actually have something enclosed in regards to this. I think we need to be enclosed to have that discussion still. There was something that was asked from staff side that was supposed to report back to council. I don't think this can be done until we have that discussion enclosed. I did reach out to Ms. Thompson. It's my understanding from her, so I tried to get my hand on this. There should be a discussion enclosed before that happens. It's my understanding. I mean, you might want to ask clarification, but there's something we discussed in closed that we were still waiting for information to come back from staff to us about that.
Okay, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Member Bertrand, Council. So this item, you can refer it to closed for the discussion that was held in closed regarding some items on it. And once that discussion is held in closed, then council can choose to rise and report.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to defer or refer this motion to the closed portion under section 91C. Seconder. Councillor Kurkalka. Comments? Councillor Howe.
Does this have to be a unanimous decision to move to closed?
No,
Not this time?
don't believe so. Ms. Thompson, is that correct?
Other times it is.
To add to an agenda, it has to be, yes.
Sorry, yes, it would need to be unanimous to move to closed.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Thank you. 9.4, Strategic Priorities Update Session Memo. Correspondence from Dr. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. 9.4, Strategic Priorities Update Session Memo. Correspondence from Dr. Gordon McIntosh summarizing the outcomes of the Strategic Priority Planning Session held in Tumbler Ridge. Recommendation, please. Councilor Korkalka.
The council received a strategic priorities update memo and follow up back to the list FUAL from Dr. Gordon McIntosh to refer to the next policies and priorities meeting for discussion. And that council approved a functional review session with Dr. McIntosh at a cost of $3,950 plus travel.
Seconder. Councilor Kirby. Discussion. Councilor Korkalka. No? Any other comments? Councilor Korkalka.
Sorry, I was maybe sorry. So I was in and I talked with Jennifer. I think, the idea of discussing the policies in the prior meeting in regards to that's fun. The idea of the review, the functional review session with Dr. I think that's going to be a benefit. I think we've asked, and it came out in our strategic planning, that this was something that Jen was going to work on. And I had a discussion with her, I think probably about a week ago, and we were just discussing it, and I think this will help her, and I think it not only helps her do the review, it also gets the information back to council. Instead of her doing it on her own, it'll just help the process. So I'm not sure council was aware of that. So
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.5, Economic Resiliency Task Force Update. Report dated November 16th, 2020 from the Director of Economic Development and Tourism to provide an update to Council on the activities of the task force. This report is being forwarded from the November 16th, 2020 Council meeting with the addition of the terms of reference as suggested by Council. Recommendation, please. Councilor Korkalka.
council accepts this report for discussion.
Seconder, Councilor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councilor Korkalka.
Yeah, so thank you, Your Worship, and I thank you and staff and just for being able to do that, move it and have to come back with the terms of reference, which to me I think was missing in our last report. When you're starting to read some of the stuff that the task force has been working on, I don't know if I agree with it all. When you read the terms of reference and what this task force was set up to do, and we're talking worm farms and stuff like that, it actually doesn't meet that. There's no food security in your terms of reference or goal setup, action plan. It's not even in there.
It's also a definition of resiliency.
Okay, but it's a financial impact.
I really don't quite understand why we're getting caught up on this worm farm. It's really a discussion amongst the task force members of resiliency, and one of the definitions of resiliency for me was food security, and out of that definition of food security became a discussion about the worm farm. It doesn't mean that we're going to recommend to council that we should put in a worm farm. I really don't understand why you guys are stuck on this, to be honest with you. Please, Councillor.
Yeah, not stuck on it. Objective. Gather and identify necessary information to gain a clear perspective of the financial impact of COVID-19 pandemic as it relates to Tumbler Ridge in order to implement an informed response. Financial impact. Right? So when I go through some of the things this task force has been working on, some of it doesn't make sense when it comes to your objective. That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe we need to move it. It's not about what you guys have been discussing as a group and volunteers, so I'm not beating up on anybody that is chairing the meeting or sitting in the meeting as council or the volunteers, but maybe some of this stuff needs to be moved elsewhere. That's what my concern is there. So I know in the last one, and no disrespect to the school or anybody, but we had the community forest brought forward another thing, and not to get off topic a bit, but it was the same thing. We needed to get information out to Tumbler Ridge residents. So the community forest took that initiative, and work with the local paper, get back online. And the same thing, now the task force, this task force is looking at having another newsletter done by the school. So it just seems to me, it just seems weird when I read it all, is what gets more clarification, I guess.
Okay.
Like maybe some of the things need to be moved out of that task force.
Yeah, and some of the items have been, you know, we've found that either we don't have capacity within or it's not relevant, and they have been moved. Yeah. But I definitely welcome any concerns in regards to any of that discussion to discuss further. And absolutely, my door is open. Councillor Howe.
I'd say I agree with Councillor Pickup on this, that, you know, what we approved as a council in terms of reference was not to go out and figure out what the social impact was in the community. Social impact, as far as I'm concerned, started to change when we looked at some of the responses that came in from the resident surveys. And that's where it, to me, left the financial ideas that we were looking at reasons. Like this, the whole point of this coming forward is when we were talking in tax season about eliminating some of the taxes that we had in the community. And then the discussion started, well, we need to find out, you know, what do the businesses actually need and what's the financial support that they need, and that's where this committee was formed. This committee is not going in that direction anymore as far as I'm concerned, from the information that we received in this report and the information that I received in the emails. That's not the direction that I thought that we were putting our staff's time into, and your time into, and frankly my time, everyone's time to read the reports, to go through it, and that's not what I thought it was for. And maybe it would be better served if we changed the name of the task force. Maybe make it something else that's more relevant at this time. Maybe at that time we were concerned about the financial side of things. Maybe we're moving on and we're thinking the social impact to what has happened during the pandemic in our own community. Maybe that's the direction you want to go. And if you do go that direction, you might find that there's different committee members that would be better suited for that role than business leaders and that are in the committee at this time. If we're going to change that into a social role, and that's like a suggestion for you to look at, to bring back, if that's the direction you want to go with this thing, then change the terms of reference and head in that direction. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not what we originally set out as a council and what we voted on that we were going to set up, right? So that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just so we can hear from the whole side. I'm happy with what the Mayor's Economic Resiliency Task Force has done. You know, like I'm happy with the ideas and initiatives that they've been working on. If you look at the key term, economic resiliency, yes, maybe we could get some more information about how this pandemic has affected businesses. You can find other sources of information, but resiliency in our community. How can we help our community bounce back from this pandemic? It's not always about taxes and tax rates. It's about things we can do to add to people's lives. And if the task force, I believe, is looking at that and has brought forth recommendations, I'm happy with that, and thank you for taking this on, and Councillor Kirby for both your times, and everyone who sits on that task force, who attends the meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think initially our terms of reference started out like this, but when you get a group of people that are passionate and bring ideas to the table and want to be a part in seeing resiliency happen, you're going to get, your course is going to veer a bit. So like no course is straight. So when the worm farm was brought up, it was something that was already fresh on our table about, food security. It really didn't go anywhere. It was a good topic to get people going on that. So I think, if we want to bring this to a PMP and look at other things to add to the terms of reference or change it, then that's welcome. If there's any counselors that would like to sit on this board, and I've done it for 7 months. If somebody else wants to sit in, fine. But I think for now, I think it's really important that our locals and our businesses and our industry have a voice on this task force. And at the last meeting, we have changed to look at the response now, because we've had COVID happening for a while, and now it's looking to things that we can do in the future to prepare. So I think the direction we're going right now is a really good one. And so have faith in this force. I think it's needed. Like I said, if there's anybody that would like to switch spots, absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I'm proud of the group that we've put together and the discussion that we've had. It was formed at a very uncertain time at the beginning of COVID, and it really, nobody really could predict the future even now. But I really focus on economic resiliency. You know, I've said it many times that if mining wasn't deemed essential, we'd be having a whole different conversation right now. We've been very fortunate that a number of our residents have been able to continue their employment, but I definitely recognize that there are a number that haven't been able to do that. And yeah, I think, you know, moving into the next 3 months, we have asked the task force members if they're still committed to continuing, which they are. And another update was planned for the March meeting. But yeah, I do understand your concern as far as the social aspect of it. You know, I think COVID has really emphasized a number of different areas how it's affected people, and you're certainly right. I will pose that question to the task force members to see if we do need to change the terms. I don't think the social aspect is the guiding principle at the moment. I think moving forward over the next couple of months is putting together an emergency management framework to not only possibly address this issue with the virus, but also future emergencies that could come forward, either wildfires or floods or whatever it might be. So that's going to be the focus of the task force in the next couple of months is really evaluating how we responded and learning from our experiences within this last 8 months here. Any other comments? Okay, moving on to schedule of meetings. I had a discussion with Ms. Thompson in regards to the January 4th meeting, a regular meeting of council. And because of so many staff being away at that time, Ms. Thompson doesn't feel that we have the capacity to put together a meeting for January 4th. So I'd like to suggest that we cancel that January 4th meeting. But I've also got an opportunity. I had a meeting with TELUS last week, and I'd like to call a meeting for them to present a proposal to council that week, possibly the 7th or 8th. What are council's thoughts? Councilor Kauka.
They couldn't attend on the 4th?
No, we won't. We don't have the staff capacity to put together a meeting on the 4th. So I'm proposing a Zoom meeting with TELUS later on that week. Councilor Norbury.
I mean, if staff says they can't get the people to the meeting, they can't get the people to the meeting. I think we gotta trust their judgment in this, and yeah, I think I'm fine with canceling it.
Yeah. So we were throwing around January 7th for meeting with TELUS. Does that work for everyone? Councilor Lehman?
I'm fine with you, 7th or 8th.
Okay. Councilor Howell?
What time on the 7th in India? Like, is it
Um,
a daytime meeting?
I think we were talking the evening, I believe. So 5, 6 o'clock. Likely be half an hour presentation, maybe half an hour discussion. Like Councilor Majinski,
Can it not be earlier so that we don't have staff doing overtime?
possibly, if council is available. my schedule. I finally got a schedule. I don't even know it. Okay, well, if council's okay with it, Jennifer and I will, or Ms. Thompson and I will continue trying to schedule it, and hopefully everybody can make it. Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if we're gonna come in for a meeting with TELUS, if we have any other delegations or that we could add to that, just to free up some time if we're not having the Monday meeting. I'm not sure what's gonna be on that agenda, but we'll, if we have grant need or anything like that before budget, maybe we could use our time and put in another couple of delegations on that day.
Possibility. I'll have to discuss with Ms. Thompson. Councilor Kirkowka?
Can we put a motion forward to council for the meeting? Then I'll be trying to add a meeting there for the motion.
Yeah, okay. So I'll put a motion forward to cancel January 4th regular meeting of council. Seconder, Councilor Kirby. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And I'm going to hold off on the motion for TELUS because I don't know exactly the date. I don't believe Mr. Bettis has responded yet. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So Mr. Bettis did respond that the 7th he was available. We just have not set up a time yet.
Okay. Does council prefer daytime or evening? Councilor Majinski?
I'll confirm time, so it's up to everybody else.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Kirkowka?
I mean, I think Councilor Majinski mentioned, we should try to do it during the day so we're not having staff. I mean, if that helps a bit here and there.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I will, yeah, possibly. Okay, I'll follow up on that. Thank you, Council. Any other issues with the meeting schedule? Okay, notice of motions. Any notice of motions this evening? Okay, councilor's business. Any councilor's business? Councilor Kirkowka?
Yeah, I'd just like to take time and wish staff Merry Christmas. I don't think we're not going to see him, so no Christmas party here with COVID. And so I'm not going to see you guys in the offices, but the rest of the staff, Merry Christmas, and thanks for everything they've done in 2020.
Absolutely. I'll reiterate that. Merry Christmas to all of your staff, Ms. Thompson, and thank you to all of you for the trying 2020 year. I know none of us expected what has been dealt to us, and I know we certainly didn't expect to be wearing masks here today, but thank you, and I hope all of you have a very Merry Christmas this year. I've got a couple things here. I had a meeting with the museum this morning. Had a meeting with TELUS GM in regards to connectivity last week. Also attended the Economic Resiliency Task Force meeting, where, as I mentioned, we are planning to prepare an emergency management framework over the next couple of months. And something else I wanted to bring up, Stuart Muir of ResourceWorks sent me an email here recently in regards to this CCPA report that I emailed to everybody a few days ago in regards to, I would say, a damming report within our area and our 3 mines within our area. I found the report to be very focused and, my opinion, not very good journalism. I know myself, I was never contacted in this regard. I don't believe anybody in our community was engaged in that. So it's quite disappointing to me, but Stuart Muir with ResourceWorks, we have worked with him in the past with the coalition, the Resource Municipalities Coalition. Runs a company called ResourceWorks. They're very good investigative journalists and kind of got their ear to the ground in Vancouver. He actually sent me the report by email and asked if this council would be interested in him preparing a presentation for our council of actual facts and much more balanced approach. I'm just bringing up the email he sent me here. At first, it sounded like it was opportunity for, for consultancy, but he did clarify that this would be pro bono work. What I mentioned is I could pull together a brief presentation of economic studies and resources that show the real impact of mining, both in BC overall and in the Northeast region specifically. I could appear before council via video conference to present it, as well as answer questions and discuss how the municipality might help to draw attention to accurate sources. We could perhaps also ask a rep of United Steelworkers to join. He finds these kinds of opportunities to set the record straight in a number of different ways, and very professional. I think this is a great opportunity. I had reached out to Mayor of Fort St. John to ask her opinion. She was quite excited for the fact that he was offering this type of work for us. Just wanted to know council's thoughts, and if you have read the report and what your thoughts are on the report. I did have a conversation with Mr. Shadden the day that the report appeared, and asked if he felt that response from the municipality is warranted, and he didn't feel so at that time. He did mention that Mining Association of BC was going to send a response, which they have, that I forwarded to everybody. But I like this idea of kind of putting together an accurate attention drawing news release, not really a news release, but a news article, I would say. What are council's thoughts? Councillor Howe?
I think it can't hurt to have it in your back pocket, have the information done and have it in your back pocket if you ever needed to release it. But the information that came out in this report, or whatever it was, some left-wing news group, like, really, do we need to make a mountain out of a molehill with some group that doesn't affect us, what we do up here? Have the information ready, but if we start the argument and we add fodder to it and we, give it a leg to stand on, it just makes it worse than what it is. Have the information ready to go, that if somebody contacts you from the news or wherever and you want to have some information to slam this thing back, then go ahead. But we all know that the report is absolute trash, and it means absolutely nothing. It's totally one-sided, which is typical of those types of publications. So who cares?
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think Councillor Howard's right. I think for the most part, people up here, or even as far as Prince George, are aware of what mining has done. And I think trying to preach to these people that are never going to get it anyway, like Council House says, it's nice to have that information so that if somebody does bring something up, you can set the facts straight. And I think that's a good thing to have, is the information, so that you can have a rebuttal ready for, when that comes up.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. That's all I have for councillor's business. Any other councillor business? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you,
Oh, sorry.
Worship. I'd like to bring up that we hosted the mayor's food drive
Thank you.
over the weekend.
Thank you.
Giving yourself that opportunity to talk about it, but I mean,
Yeah.
I knew you weren't able to make it, so no, he was there. It was a great turnout from our community. I know the food bank was, they were happy to receive everything they got and exceeded their expectations. I think this year will be hard for a lot of families in our community, and they've even spoken that they anticipate a 30% increase in their food hampers that are needed this year. So the community isn't out of the woods yet in terms of filling the needs, but at least we're able to put something together, try and get some food resiliency for members in our community. And thank you to everyone who came out and participated, who donated, who will donate. It's a great initiative. Thank you, staff, for rushing to get that all together, and it was fun hanging out with the fire department and climbing a ladder, even if I couldn't make it to the top. So I was a little too scared. A little high up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norbury, for the reminder. Yes, it was a success. Thank you all to residents of Tumbler Ridge that donated. it filled my bucket most definitely to see the generosity of everybody. Ms. Solomon did say that it was the largest year for cash donations, so Tumbler Ridge, you've definitely made us all proud. Thank you. Question and answer period. Ms. Thompson, did you receive any questions?
There have been none.
Thank you. Okay, and resolution to closed. Recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with the Community Charter, Section 91C, E, and J, and Section 92D as follows. 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And 92D, a matter that under another enactment is such that the public must be excluded from the meeting. Seconder, Councillor Kokelka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 10-minute recess, please.